It's marvelous. She's so pretty, really handsome down here. Too many boats, too little time, but that's very nice.
King of the world!
Hi there, this is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one. I was looking down here to see if you were swimming down here somewhere. Are you swimming over here this time?
Here we are.
Where are you? Oh, here you are. Oh, well, you found me here in Noank today. Noank, Connecticut. It's a sort of little sister town to the Mystic Seaport, one of the cooler places for anybody that wants to know about boats and old-time sailing, whaling ships, anything you can think of. And that's just that direction. And just the other direction is the Electric Boat Company and the submarine base of the United States in Groton. So we're surrounded by everything nautical here down in Noank, which is a sweet little harbor just to the north of Fisher's Island, which forms a bit of a barrier out in Long Island Sound. And then you have something called the Race, where the tide rips through, buoys lean over. It's just kind of wild water sometimes. We found another unique little beauty here. Built in New Zealand, has been around the world once and then half again.
Wow.
Yep, once and twice. And before she even left New Zealand, she participated in the famous Sydney-Hobart race. Not once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times.
Wow.
That's a 650-mile race. It's considered one of the toughest races in the world. You run into brutal seas there, and it goes from Sydney to Hobart, Tasmania. The designer is a man named Alan Warwick. He's left a legacy of some really interesting boats, and one of those is one we're going to see today.
Yeah, which one is it?
Over here. Look at this beauty.
Oh, wow.
Look at that beauty. Is that slick or what?
It's very racy.
Alan designed a series of 3 boats that were called Cardinals. Cardinal 46, a Cardinal 38, and then a Cardinal 42. Now this boat was one of 2 that were originally built, and they were built out of a kauri tree, which is I may be mispronouncing that, but it's this incredible tree that grows only in New Zealand, and its circumference is bigger than the sequoias we have in California.
Wow.
It's like 37 feet around, something like that.
God.
Huge. The way this boat was built is it was laminated with 3 layers of this kauri wood, and then outside of that there's one thin layer of fiberglass just to smooth everything over to give it that nice finish. It makes the boat light. And inside, the woodwork inside, that is a result of that, because you see the ceilings now, you see overheads, everything is all wood. It reminds us a little bit of even the window that we were on. So when you get down there, you say, ooh, this is a really wooden boat. Now, this boat was designed to race, so she's a little simpler inside and really designed for 8 guys to go racing across the Tasmanian Sea. She's tough, she's rugged, and she's very fast. And today we're going to find out just how nicely she sails, because the owner has consented to be the first boat in this marina to go sailing this year.
Wow.
And first time the boat's been out this year.
Wait, we're going to go out in the water?
And you know who else it is? Exactly. I'm going out there, and I'm even going to take you along.
I get the invite?
You get to come too.
Wow.
How good is that?
You're very kind.
No. I'm just delighted to do it.
I mean, are we going to check out the hull down below?
Yeah, I'm going to have you do that. I'm going to have the camera. I'm going to hold the camera. It has a reasonable deep forefoot. It doesn't have the knuckle in the bow, and you're going to have again a nice bite into the sea with the thing, and then it goes back to a sort of a rectangular keel, and that leads into a little bit of a bustle that runs back into a very large skeg on the rudder way aft. So I'm going to guess that I think we're going to find this boat will steer like a dream.
Pretty
and
well.
It may not even need me behind the wheel. It'll just do it by itself.
I mean, every boat needs you behind.
That's true. You're good.
What would you compare the bottom to? Is it like the F&C kind of?
The skeg rudder arrangement looks very much like the F&C.
Yep.
So this boat was covered with teak originally. And the teak, like a lot of teak on a number of boats that we've seen, it starts to get tired and it buckles and the screws pop up and the bungs get popped out and so on. And then everybody says, oh, what am I going to do with the teak? I've got so much work to do with this boat. I can't possibly afford to do it. And we've had quotes on 40-footers that were 44-footers actually, that were between $50,000 and $100,000 to do the decks. What he's done here is he's discovered a product. It's a coating you put on the wood, and then it's something they've used it for other things like sidewalks and places, and then you can add some ground up, the little ground up bits of rubber chunks that get thrown into the second coating while it's still wet, and that gives you a tread on here. It gives you an incredible amount of grip. Now it also coats the teak. We say, what happened to the teak? Well, the teak's still there, and actually if you look closely you can see the lines where the teak rubber was, okay, between the boards. He's just coated the whole thing over. It's tight, it doesn't move, it doesn't chip, and it just works perfectly. He did this all himself, and he did it about 3 years ago. He's had no problems with it. He probably could have done it, maybe a little more neatly than he's done. There's some little areas here where, I could see, you want to come in and do some cleanup on the paint around the doghouse and so forth, to see if we stay on board.
Yeah, interesting solution.
Well, the cost is minimal. What it does, it saves the boat. And if you get back from a distance, it looks just like any other boat. Going forward, the next time you did something like this treatment, you'd want to be very careful about how you put it on, how much of the tread, the grip you put into the paint, and the non-skid as such. And it'll have a little different look to it. He's had the boat for 20 years. He really likes to single-hand this boat. And there's all sorts of little tiny innovations here and there. You know who got here first?
Wow. Yeah, yep. Usually Sea Dog beats us to it.
Sea Dog made it first. So, Randy, welcome aboard. This is the first boat right off the bat that has twin outboards. The boat has an array of electronics up here. We have a wind generator, the very large Furuno radar, everything you could possibly think of electronically. There's a repeating radar screen right here. What's really wonderful though is on the stern of the boat, anchored off the transom, is a monitor self-steering mechanism.
Yeah, we've seen that almost on Gandalf.
And also on the Bermuda 40 had one.
The Bermuda 40, yeah.
I think, but this is a really neat rig, and what he's done here, for anybody that's spent any time ever looking or thinking about that, is these rigs come in with these lines that feed from the monitor itself, and they usually go through a series of blocks all around the cockpit. What he's done here is he's designed this to come through the hull up to these two lines, so there's nothing to trip over. There's even these two little tubes, stainless tubes, you can stand on them, and it will still drive the drum that's anchored to the hub of the steering wheel. It's really a neat design.
Yeah, very clever, nice and clean.
Very clean, very tight. It cleans up the area back here.
Do you prefer that over the Cape Horn, Cap Horn system we saw?
I have no preference on it because this is the first one I've actually been on a boat with actually functioning. I've been wanting to for years, but now I'm sitting very comfortably on this combing piece that's raised, and I know when we're sailing I'm going to want to sit up here because I can just put one hand on the wheel. I can see my jib, I can see the main. There's a hole here where you're going to put an emergency tiller. Will go right through this little hole right in the cockpit, and that will allow you to steer the boat if something happens to the wheel or the other steering mechanism. It's an actual mechanical tiller. Here you can see some of the mechanism for the electric autopilot right there. There's a steering arm for the electric autopilot. That's a auto helm system.
So that's in addition to the...
That's in addition to the monitor, yeah. The monitor, the autopilot, the electric autopilot is great if you're just motoring somewhere. Set of engine controls are just on the underside of the bridge deck here. So you can see those all from the wheel. And it's got a nice rig for the main sheet where he's put a little extra line on here, so it just cuts down on the amount of line that has to go back and forth in this 6-part tackle here, which you really need on a mainsail this size. Sitting on something that has no latches, but it has a window, so...
We know what that means.
We know what that means, right? We won't even tell anybody what that means. We'll let them guess. Directly beneath me, this hatch, there are 4 golf cart batteries. Those are big 6-volt batteries that are all linked up to part of the electrical system on the boat to make a 12-volt system. And on top of those, which is very handy in having it right here, is the life raft. And there's a clinometer here to tell you how far you're tipping over. So if you know that the boat sails best at about 20 degrees on her beam, then you want to get that little ball right over there to the 20-degree mark. Or maybe she's happy at 15 degrees.
That's the fun zone, right?
That's the fun zone.
Let's check out the foredeck. It looks racy.
We're going to go look at the foredeck. Let's
right,
go to the foredeck. I know. We've got a nice wide deck. We like wide decks. Inboard sail track. And they move the sail track in as these boats get beamier, really for a good angle to beat. It's got to be about 7 degrees off the headstay, somewhere in that neighborhood. But that's very nice. Midships cleats. This makes tying up very easy for your spring lines. You need at least one of those midships. So many boats don't have anything. And walking on this deck is really amazing. I'm really getting to like it, and I just think it's marvelous. I would do this in a New York minute, really, because it's a tan deck. It looks great. Now, as I'm walking up, I've come across another track here. And what do we think that's for?
Probably a staysail.
Bingo. You can bring up, there's a shroud that comes up to that, carry up the staysail. And interesting too, you'll see when we go into the forward cabin below, how they've counterbalanced that going through the deck and into the forward cabin. We got your capstan here. This little puppy's been around. Here's a switch for it right here. In this anchor locker, there's a 45-pound Bruce and a 35-pound Bruce, which the owner of the boat swears by. He said he's had everything else, and they've held up under all circumstances. So, and then there's 200 feet of nylon road. That's this right here. And nylon is good for anchoring. Why, Randy?
It's got a little stretch to it.
It does, and that stretch is a good thing. We like stretch.
Yep. Less shock on the boat, less shock on the anchor.
Yes, exactly. Teak has been left bare.
Would you do that?
Oh, on this boat, sure, why not? No, this is kind of a working racing boat with some cruising capability to it. So I'd leave it. It's not hurting it. Teak has a natural oil to it which helps preserve it, and teak tends not to rot. It's tough. She has a reefing system, a single line reefing system, which is just one line roving up and down and goes to about 3 different reef points in the main. So you can have as little or as much main as you want up at a given time. Underneath here there's a 4-part vang. This isn't solid, but it will control the main boom movement. All in all, the sails are on board are in great shape. They might be about 10 years old each, something in that neighborhood.
Yeah, not too bad.
But we'll take a look at them when we go out. We're going to go out today.
Yeah, we're going to shake them out.
I can't wait. I just can't wait. What do you say? Let's get ready for the owner and tidy up. This is one of the nicer little nav stations I've seen. Yeah. This is a little room for the navigator. You don't find this until you're on big ships. Sometimes they're really big mega yachts. And it's not so terribly different, in fact, from other boats, because you come down a companionway and you find a chart table here sometimes. But because of this bulkhead right here, and it surrounds the whole thing, you're right in here in the privacy of your own space. The very first thing I would do is I would install a rod with a curtain on it.
Yeah.
And I'd close this all off so I would be in my own nook and cranny. When I got tired of navigating, I'd crawl into this quarter berth here, which is probably about the same as any quarter berth we've seen. It's wide. It's almost quite a double.
Yep.
And nice as can be. The seat I'm in. Take a look at that seat. Does that look comfy or what?
Oh yeah, nice big bench.
And it's going to handle you both directions pretty well. I just really like sitting here.
And this is where you do your navigating?
We do all our navigating here. He's got a Garmin in here. He's got a little handheld VHF. Here's the radar unit. This is kind of an older box than we're used to today, but it seems to work apparently. Beside that is a single sideband radio, and you saw the antenna for that on the backstay. And here's all the circuit breakers here for the spreader lights, the cabin lights, and the autopilot are right here on this panel beside you. Also, his house battery switches, we've seen those big red things that sit on the wall. Right here, this is how they're set up on this boat. Very simple, there's just 3 switches. So you've got the engine battery, the engine house battery and accessories, and just the house battery and the engine. So, you know what these are, Randy?
Yeah, it's from measuring your distances, right, on the chart?
They're a pair of one-handed dividers. When you're trying to find a distance between 2 points, you just put them down on your chart and you pick it up and pick it off the longitude on the side of your chart. You know how far you've been. There's chart storage under here. There's more storage under here. I just really like this so much. This is all you need. You can do this with almost any boat. Build this wall in here, and the navigator's got his own space and a place to think and be quiet. And it's got a port light right there too, a big long one, just like the other ones in the boat here.
Yep.
To look out. So we have an engine under here, and we should take a quick look at that, right?
Oh, that's pretty quick.
So I just slide this puppy off.
How heavy is that?
This is a little heavier than a bread box, but it will slide right along on its own feet, kind of. But here's the engine. Everything's right there. This engine's been around for a while, but it's been well taken care of. He's recently replaced the heat exchanger, and he's did some other work on the heads on the block. And this is a Westerbeek 4108. To leave the dock, we had to turn the engine on.
Oh yeah.
It turned right on. Boom,
we know this engine works.
This puppy works like a charm. It's just, once you hear these old Westerbeeks turn on, you think, yep, that's working, it's good.
It's got a fairly strong smell.
There was an oil filter in here that let go, cracked, and that leaked quite a bit of fuel oil into the bilge. Not oil, but fuel oil. So that's the smell. If you look at the oil pan below there, the oil rag, it's quite clean, okay? So the engine is dry right now, down here.
Yeah.
You see that?
I do.
I think it looks like it's time to change the raw water pump. A little corrosion there. So I just slide this puppy right back in place. That's just easy as pie almost, depending what your choice of pie is. Let's go take a look in the galley here, because this is a little different. Lots of counter space. This part is just a little funky. Not terribly, but there might be even a plus to it. Let's think about this. The stove, a 2-burner stove, and this is propane, I believe. Yes, it's propane. Is set off to the side here. And you think, well, gee, I can't get to anything. Well, you actually can. You can turn it on, and you can handle a pot and pan. But you're also not going to get in front of that. So if the boat lurches, think about this. You're not going to go, oh, crash, and fall into, some hot stew of some sort. I don't know that I would ever design that way, but I think because these guys race these boats, I think this was done intentionally, not just by, they didn't just say, oh, hey, what, we forgot to put the stove in. I've thought about it, and I think this makes some small sense. Because you don't have to have the thing right in the way. The other thing it does too is it opens up storage space below these countertops. And this is kind of cool. Check it out. What do you see there?
Oh, it's all lit up.
It's all lit up.
Beautiful.
Yeah, look at that. Is that cool or what? I've never seen that in a boat. It's a pretty easy thing to do in a way, but he's done it. So there's lots of storage underneath the sink in the galley area. Now, you know what we think about sinks, right?
Like 2 big, deep ones.
Right. So here we have kind of just the opposite. We have one kind of shallow one. And again, offshore sailors and so forth will often, they'll gather the plates and they'll put them in a bucket and they'll hand them up to some guy in the cockpit because you've got nothing else to do up there. And they'll say, wash them out. So they'll scrub them out in the cockpit with seawater. Hand them down here, and then you can just, rinse it, clean them off, and then dry them and put them away in the cabinets. And then you've got food storage. There's, whatever you want in there. And then there's, you've got tons of food storage everywhere on the boat,
Yep.
So it's quite handy.
Pretty great.
And by the way, headroom, people always want to know, where are we here? I'm the typical 6'1" with the cabin key measuring stick plus that amount, and that's what, about 3 or 4 inches?
Yep.
So we're about 6'5" headroom in here. This is really, really handsome down here. She's so pretty, and all the wood, everything, all the wood that's gone into building the boat, and that's just all they had to build it with down in Zealand, and they've done a great job. That's one of the interesting things about this boat. I've never quite seen this before, but the icebox it's not an icebox, it's a refrigerator.
Okay.
And for some reason, I don't know why, they decided that they should put it over here.
Oh, wow.
So this is the refrigerator, and if you look down in there, you'll see that it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it does keep, ooh, water, icy cold, feel that. It's not huge, it's just kind of funky and in a very strange place. The main salon is a little different than the average bear, because if you notice, it's very long. These settees are very long. They're almost 1 cushion extra. And we're not quite certain why that is. Behind me originally were pilot berths, okay? I guess if you slept in here, they wanted a beer, you'd have to move your head.
That would keep the pillow cold.
It would keep the pillow cold. It's been built into a library, and I think this was done sometime long after it stopped racing. Behind all these cushions, too, is an enormous amount of storage space. Behind each of these cushions is a space like that. Oh, well, we have the essentials of sailing once you're on the dock.
Oh, yeah.
What would you like for the show?
You know, I'd like to maybe turn that into a wood stove spot.
Exactly. I suggested that the other day to him, and he said, that would be a great idea. There is no filler piece, but there's a lot of storage area underneath the berths.
It's got what you like.
It does have what I like, which is
a low height entry
point. That's really observant, because I'd forgotten about that, but it's true. Because as I sit down here right now on it, I can swing my legs up. Just for you, buddy.
How do you like that ceiling?
Oh, the ceilings, oh, they're beautiful. Look at that's the hull right there. And I can see a little wet on a couple of these overhead beams, but 2 minutes with sandpaper, clean it up, a touch of varnish, you'll never see it again. A little paint chipping here, but it's all dry wood. This just pops right up and will bolt onto that, and it will fit right in that hole, and like so. And then you've got this going right down and bolted down to the keel of the boat, and your staysail will be rock solid. Actually, the owner has never set the staysail, he said.
Wow.
Turn it around. You can take a peek back into the head, which is commodious.
Wow. Nice
size head, right?
Very sizable.
And very easy to clean, and, you know, it's set up. There is no shower in there. The pan on the floor could accommodate a drain, and then you'd run it off to a catch-all of some sort. But right now, it does not have a shower. But I wouldn't say that that's a detraction at all.
No.
It would be nice to have a shower. I think I'd probably install one myself.
You could, they're not that hard to put in, right?
And then I'm going to get out of here. Oh, goodbye. Here are through-hull fittings for the transponder for the speedometer, and this is the just the bare hull right there.
It's so pretty.
It is. It's very nice. There's a little stain here. He had a diesel oil leak, which didn't find out for quite a while. So we'll find some stains like this elsewhere in the builds too. This is kind of interesting. You can see the keel bolts right here. Okay, now here's a major keelson holding these bolts in place, and these are just giant nuts. You see they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what, hexagonal nuts. But how interesting to be able to see your keel bolts right in place. So today was a perfect day. We had an invitation to come look at an Alan Warwick 42-foot sloop. And you know what, today? We didn't have any snow. We didn't have any rain. We had sunshine. We had puffy blue skies, just wonderful. Look, no gloves, everybody, no gloves. He was happy to get sailing on his boat because it was the first time this year the boat has been out. She just goes like a dream. This boat I would buy just for that sail alone, seriously. I would say I'd be happy just sitting back here, because you could let go of this wheel and that keel and that skegged rudder design This boat just laid over gently in these breezes and just took off like a rabbit. She just flew. I was so happy sitting behind the wheel.
I noticed.
She's pretty spectacular. I would highly recommend this boat. Boy, would you have fun cruising with this, but I'd really like to race this boat still. I think she's still got some ponies left in her that can run. Well, guess what? We're floating. Boing.
We definitely know it. This
Definitely
one
floating, and we're dry. 10 points. I'm going to give her another 5 for design. I'm going another 5. I'm going to give it 5.5. So we're going up to 20.5.
All right.
What do you think?
You probably could add 1 because you took it for a sail.
You want, oh, 1? Oh, great point. We should add 1 for the sailing. I'm giving it 2 points. So we're going to 22.5 for this boat. And that doesn't happen very often, does it?
Nope.
Nope, it doesn't. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. We're having too good a time doing these things, so you can hit the bell or not. Randy, how would I ever find out what's coming up next?
You can follow us on Instagram here,
Yeah.
or Facebook here. We'll have little previews of what's coming up on our next episodes. A little bit early.
That's pretty cool. Previews. You all join me. I'm going to Instagram right now, and I'm going to find out what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
You know, Instagram's not a place.